Okay, guys, hello and welcome back to Bright Founders Talk from Temi, an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. First of all, guys, I have to apologize. I've got a little bit of a cold today, feeling a little bit under the weather, so my voice is down, my energy levels are down, but hopefully Paul, our next guest today, is going to bring the levels back up. So, guys, just to introduce you to our guest today, Paul Tiley, CTO and co-founder of Coinpass. I always, guys, check the names and surnames of our speakers just to double check. And I hope I got that right. Yeah, Paul Tiley.
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah, well done. Yeah, it was good. People do often get it wrong, so.
Perfect. Okay, Paul, before we go into the world of everything that you're doing at Coinpass, I want to get to know you a little bit better. So let me ask you just a series of quick fire questions, and I want you to answer them yes, no, or one word answers. Your strongest skill?
Communication.
Are you happy with this year's success?
Yes.
Is work-life balance important to you?
Yes.
Would you do things differently if you could go back in time?
No.
Nice. Are you a risk taker?
Yes.
And do you prefer team or independently?
Team.
Nice. Very, very nice. Okay, cool. We're going to go into those questions a little bit later. It helps me kind of understand you a little bit more when I ask the questions. But Paul, before we do, just give us in a sentence or two, what is it you do at Coinpass? If you can explain it in a sentence.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the way I like to say it is I'm the head of everything nerdy. I mean, my role is, I'm the head of the technical department, and I know that's a very vague term because that, especially for non-technical people, but that's everything from software development to technical project management to product management, and to supporting our staff, supporting our customers, from a technical point of view. So it's quite a wide gambit, but I mean, if the response quite often here in the company is ask tech, and that normally falls into my team somewhere.
Okay, and I've seen you've been a techie pretty much your whole life. Yes, you had your experience and your education in tech as well. You said that when I asked you those questions, team or independently, people a lot of the time think of tech guys as independent workers. You said team. Explain that to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's just too many limitations of trying to do everything by yourself. So, I mean, I love when I'm working from home, I can just sort of crack on and get a whole bunch of work done, and, there's no distractions for me at home, right? And I'm quite self-motivated in that I working from home and just getting on with things. So I feel like, but there's also, so while I can work quite well at home independently, I have such a finite amount of things I can do. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like if you want to do anything, you need more than one person to do it. So that's why I say team. It's you need that collection of people coming together to do something, even if they all work independently, to actually achieve the goal.
And talking about the team, how big is the team now?
Our numbers are down a little bit, but we're down to a team of 27 at the moment.
Team of 27. Nice. Okay, so numbers are down. Tell me, why are numbers down at the moment? What do you mean by that?
Well, so crypto is a really interesting industry. And it follows a lot of cycle patterns, right? So, and a lot of tech companies have a different approach. I'm not saying our approach is better, worse, or anything. It's just different. Mm-hmm. So, we like to hire with the view that you're going to be here for the next 6 months, 2 years, 4 years, whatever you want. Like I'm really big on staff retention and keeping talent in house. And as that means, so what that means for us when we hire someone, it's all about, we've got to make sure that we're going to have you through the next bull and bear cycle, right? And through this last bear cycle that we're going through right now, we've spent some people that have moved on to better opportunities. We've just not filled those positions back. So it's made it a little bit tougher on the current team because, we now got more work to do, but it's all about the plan of trying to manage the headcount for, the bear and bull cycles.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll go into that a little bit later about the team and the challenges that comes with as well. But let's just go right back to the beginning, Paul. Let's go back to the idea of Coinpass. So 5 years, I believe that it's been running now, just over 5 years, a little bit more. Tell me, where did the idea come from, and what was that original idea?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Interesting start. So, I mean, I'd been following Bitcoin, for probably since 2015, and finally got into. I mean, I use the word traded very loosely, but I traded some Bitcoin myself, and but it wasn't difficult. Especially, I got involved through the bull run of 2017, and you just had to really just turn up to make money, right? And we're not talking about high finance here, right? I was able to buy a round of beers. It's not, but it was sort of my foray into sort of understanding the market a bit better and learning a bit more about the technology. And then, as I suppose a lot of people were talking about at the time, like it become a topic of conversation you would actually overhear, whether you're out on the street or at a pub or at a restaurant. It just seemed to be coming a time where people were talking about Bitcoin. And, so a few of my friends were interested as well. And a friend of a friend where we were our buddy and I were talking about it. And, or what I should say. So the current CEO of Coinpass and I were talking about it at the pub and chatting about, we were trading Bitcoin and having some fun with it. And he's also got a technical background as well. So he kind of loosely understood how the mechanics and how it all worked. And then he had another friend that was getting some FOMO, right? Because he wanted to learn a bit more about him. And we were telling him, well, it's simple. You just, you make a bank transfer to this company in Germany, and then they'll FX your pounds into euros, and then you buy your Bitcoin and you send your Bitcoin. He's like, what? Sending money to Germany? So, anyway, so a couple of...
How long ago? Over 5 years ago.
This was 2017. So, yeah. So, late 2017. So, yeah, about 5.5 years ago. And, I did a couple of Google Meets with him to sort of try to just help him, like, to buy Bitcoin. And at the time we were using Kraken in Germany. And anyway, yeah, I helped him buy his Bitcoin. He was very flustered and frustrated with the whole process, and I didn't think much more of it. Then he calls me out of the blue, maybe a month later, and says, right, I've got this idea. We're going to start a Bitcoin exchange in the UK. Are you in or out? And we all met for dinner. There was 4 of us at the time, and everyone come from sort of a different background, including one guy from traditional finance who had been worked for some big banks and institutions, and we kind of come up with the idea of Coinpass there over dinner one night, and we drew out some diagrams and some ideas, and then kind of the journey started from there. The 4 of us. So that's kind of how it all started.
And are you all still together? Still all 4 of you in the team?
3 of the 4 of us are.
3 of the 4. Okay. Tell me about. Let's go a little bit more. Still, stay at the beginning. About that first MVP you had. What did it look like?
So at the time, we were also not Coinpass. We were called Get FIFO, and so there was a lot of debate around the name. And we went with we were trying to come up with something that was playing on the word of fiat, and we were like, okay, maybe we could call it fiat in, fiat out, because our idea was that the big pain point we were trying to solve was the actual trading of pounds into Bitcoin. Like there were plenty of companies out there and established exchanges where you could do crypto to crypto, right? So we figured if we could on-ramp that part of the market, because no one was on-ramping at a decent price in the UK, maybe we could on-ramp that traffic and then just be that gateway for traders to go into a crypto exchange. And so we had this idea, we'd be called fiat in, fiat out. We couldn't get that domain, so we were like, get fiat in and out. So that was kind of how the original name come about. And the MVP, like we thought, oh, well, it shouldn't take us too long to build an MVP. And it wasn't the tech that slowed us down. So this first conversation was in January, and we launched in September. And the reason why it took us so long to launch was 100% banking. So, our original, one of the original founders went to 36 banks high street banks,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to open up a bank account so that we could take customer deposits. Now, Chris, at that time, well, it was wild west of crypto, right? Not that I'm saying it's not now, but it's completely unregulated. Banks wouldn't touch it, and I think I've even heard stories of people's like just buying £1,000 of Bitcoin and getting, their local bank shutting them down, right? So it was really bad. And so we had 36 no's and we finally had one yes. But to get to that one yes took 4 months. Mm-hmm. So we were very much delayed by a launch by trying to find a bank account just to take customer deposits. So that was a really difficult. That was the most difficult part about launching the platform.
I have 2 questions which have come from that answer. So I'll ask the first part first. With the MVP, were you proud of your MVP at the beginning? I speak to so many leaders and so many founders and CTOs, and they tell me, if you're proud of your MVP, you probably waited too long to launch.
I was proud of our MVP, but only because of the journey we took. So we launched what you'd probably call now a Bitcoin broker, an online Bitcoin broker on the 1st of September and of that year, and we were actually launching it at a crypto event.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all good, we were all ready to go. It was simple. You could buy Bitcoin, you could buy Litecoin, I believe. I think it was the two. So we had Litecoin pounds, Bitcoin pounds. That's it. And it was good. It was fine. It was simple, but it did what we needed to do. And then we were doing some final checks on the Friday afternoon. So the launch was the Saturday of this event, and we had a problem with the server. And we were up until 3:00 in the morning trying to troubleshoot this problem. Got some sleep. Next morning, one of the other guys noticed another problem, and we literally fixed the final problem at 20 minutes past 12. And the schedule, we were going on stage at 1 to launch the platform.
Uh-huh.
So we were proud that we got it out the door. But it was a very simplistic platform compared to what it was 6 months later, for sure.
Literally, I mean, that's definitely the racing against the clock, isn't it? Wow. Okay. Tell me, with regards to, you said obviously, I think you said 36 banks refused at the beginning. What is the motivation? How do you continue to keep on going, this resilience that founders have? How can you, how do you know when to keep on going, or how do you know when to just, throw in the towel? Because 36 is a lot of no's to receive before you think, is this ever going to work? What was the motivation, and how do you keep and stay resilient?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I mean, there were several times that we talked about throwing in the towel. Absolutely. And also, while we're doing this, we're all working our own full-time jobs. So this is all is a side hustle, right? At the time, mm-hmm. No one's given up their job at this point. And I think that also sort of weighs on you as well. So, well, I'm already making my living, right? What keeps us going? I think we were just convinced that there had to be a way. And it was not, I don't think, at no point did I ever think it couldn't be done. It was just how it could be done. And I think really that was kind of the driving force for all of us. It just had to be, there had to be a way. There were so many crypto companies around the world. I appreciate the UK was a bit more of a, there were some institutional players in the market for sure, but and there was no one really, not really, the retail space wasn't as big, but there had to be a way. I just couldn't see there not being a way to achieve our goal.
So no, there was no such thing as no in this case. Yeah, no such thing.
Yeah, it was just how.
Okay, so with regards to your past, so obviously you've had over 20 years in the industry working on security architect, IT systems as well. How has that contributed to your success and the success of Coinpass?
I've worked for a lot of big companies, and I've also had to be in a lot of big groups. And I've had to pitch for so much work. So I worked for I worked for a company, a FTSE 100 company in the UK, mm-hmm. and the way they managed the IT department was, the IT are an outsourced entity, but they're still employees of the company, right? So if you want IT to build you something, engage them, they'll give you a quote, and you tell them where to charge it to. So we were constantly, having to justify why something would cost X. And a lot of the projects I worked on were, north of $500,000. So it's not an amount of money that someone's going to say yes to straight away, right? So, it's having those conversations, engaging with non-technical people that were like, oh, I thought it would cost us $100,000, and you're telling me it's like 500,000. And and some of the projects never got greenlit because they were like, it's just too much money. And someone was like, okay, we just need to figure out how we're going to pay for that, but we'll pay for it somehow. Let's figure that out. So, but that whole journey was having conversations with people that were not technical, that didn't understand, but trying to justify why 500,000 was the number, or 1 million, or whatever the number was. Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to justify a number, how do you justify the number? You can't just technically just spit out a whole bunch of jargon, because people are just their eyes are gonna glaze over, right? And I'm not insulting anyone. It's just you've got to relate to the person you're trying to sell to in the way they understand. And I really feel like a lot of my IT career, I've just constantly have to justify and sell to non-technical people. And it's just given me a really good skill set now that I can go into a boardroom and quite confidently say to someone, it's going to cost X, this is why, this is what you're going to get, this is how it's going to work. And okay, maybe that those 5 points is going to be a 20-minute presentation, but it's that confidence to sort of say, this is what it is. I'm not very good at public speaking, but I am very confident at telling someone why something's going to cost what it's going to cost. And I think that sort of skill set that I inadvertently picked up over all those years really, really helps, especially when you're trying to lead a team or talk to investors or get from A to B as well.
I think it's so helpful. I hear a lot of the time speakers that come on the show, they say, okay, I'll explain it like I'm 5, explain it to you like I'm 5. And it's a really amazing way to do it, because I think people can get lost in the world of jargon and like tech words, and it turns out to be a completely different language, but they don't really realize it sometimes. So if you're able to do that, absolutely, it's definitely another one of your strongest skills. Tell me there. So I remembered what I wanted to say. So going back to the point before where you said you still had side jobs at the same time, it was more of a side hustle at the beginning. Is that the correct thing to do when you're taking that leap into the startup world? Is it more correct just to throw everything you've got at it to make sure you can kind of make it work? Or when you have this half kind of approach, is it more likely to fail?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think it really depends on your circumstance, and it really depends on you as a person. So I feel like either way, you've got to give something up. So for me, it worked quite well because previous to this, I was trying all sorts of little side hustles. I ran e-commerce businesses and had some success. Ran into a whole bunch of scaling issues with them, but that's another topic. But so I was quite happy to come home from work and then, spend 4 hours working on a side hustle. That was quite ingrained in me, but I appreciate the sacrifice to that as your personal life or any sort of work-life balance. But I feel like for me, I was so motivated by building something new that I didn't mind giving up certain aspects of that work-life balance. Mm-hmm. And
like a hobby, I guess then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I pretty much cut everything out of my life other than a couple of things, and obviously my partner as well. I did cut her out, but it's like it just sort of really forced me to sort of manage my time in the most optimal way possible. So X amount of nights dedicated for personal life, and then maybe 4 or 5 nights a week, or some weeks 3 nights a week and a whole day Saturday to try to grind out 20, 25 hours of work. So there are some limitations, of course, of how much work you can do when you're still working a full-time job. And I appreciate that's going to slow some of your velocity down. However, I felt with this project we were doing, it was such a high risk that I wouldn't have felt comfortable just packing my job in straight away and running with it. And also because we were self-funded as well. Mm-hmm. So the 4 founders funded the original MVP and the first year of the business. So we also needed that income to come in and still pay the bills because our savings went into our own seed round. So I feel like there's no right or wrong answer to your question, but I feel like it depends. But I think it all comes down to what your motivation is and how you're going to get to where you need to go.
Absolutely. It kind of is circumstantial for everyone, really, isn't it? And how their situation is. If they can afford to do it and they can just drop it off and go for the other thing, then go for it. They can't, then not possible. If someone struggles mentally with that pressure, maybe that idea of going all in is not a great idea to do at first when you've got financial issues behind you. So yeah, it's definitely something which is very individual for all. Tell me in regards to what you're doing now at Coinspace, Coinpass, sorry. How are you making sure that you stay at the forefront of kind of cutting edge technology? What are you doing to make sure you're staying right at the front?
Yeah, so this is a really difficult balance for us. We are trying to stay at the edge as much as we can. So about 2.5 years ago, we shifted into the regulated space. So we were one of the first companies to be approved by the UK regulator, the FCA, and we're on their crypto assets registered list. Mm-hmm. And it's a very small list, it's a very elite list, which is great for us. Now, what that means in terms of your question is we are in the bounds of what they allow us to do. So, maybe you look at like a Binance, which is a great platform, but it really kind of is for a Walmart of crypto, right? You can go on there, you'll get lost trying to find what you need to do, but at the end of the day, you'll find it and you can do anything you want to do, and which is awesome. It's great for the industry. Being that we're playing more in that regulated space, we have to be as innovative as possible, but also keep the regulator happy. And more so now in the last 12 months, as with things like the collapse of FTX and Terra Luna and trying to sort of play safely, simple example is just to launch stable coins, which are, such a core part of crypto. We were 12 months late doing that because we had to go through some legal hoops and get the FCA's approval and that. But then as soon as we did it, there was a massive uptick in revenue because it was something that the market was already an established product line that what people wanted. So it's a really difficult balance for us to try to find that. And the strategy now is it's spending as much time with the regulator as possible. Uh-huh. So, speaking to her, I was in an event with our CEO yesterday, and he was telling me how, it's almost every 2 or 3 weeks now, there's some sort of call with the regulator or an event with the regulator on what can we do. And now, you got the Prime Minister of the UK, saying, let's make UK very crypto friendly, crypto hub. And, we're getting invited to calls where you've got the biggest crypto players in the country on a call with the regulator. How can we do X, Y, and Z? I'm not on those calls, thankfully. I'd rather be on a technical call, but it's great though, because it means that we're getting access to them on what they will allow us to do, and then we can go find a fit to the market to do it. So we've got, I think that we're going to see, we could see quite a good velocity of being able to do more things within their bounds as they get a better understanding of how crypto works.
Tell me about this a little bit more, because we know the UK has definitely been behind the times with regulation. It's been one of the impediments for the crypto world in the UK, so people have gone to other locations. What's your opinion on the situation now? Is it where, I'm not going to say where you want to be, because absolutely it's definitely not. But is it getting closer, and what more needs to be done?
Yeah, I think the last 6 months, it's heading in the right direction. You asked me this question 12 months ago, I would say we're still dragging a bit, but I think now it's very visible that the regulator in the UK is asking the right questions. Mm-hmm. They've just started up a couple of months ago. They just started up a new regulated sandbox, which we're involved in helping out with. But it's initiatives like that, which they're not new to regulation. They've been doing sandbox for years, right? But it's giving those opportunities for crypto companies then to feed back and listen and not just stamp their feet in the sand and say, maybe like other regulators around the world, which I won't name, are doing at the moment, right? So they're actively asking questions, trying to understand, trying to be involved, and it's okay. It's a lot of question and answer at the moment, and nothing's being decided. But we didn't have question and answer 12 months ago. So I really feel like that's a massive step forward.
I guess that is because it's not now just politicians deciding what needs to be the case. It's having that communication between both industries to actually decide where it needs to go and how it can most develop. Okay, so tell me that, Paul, tell me in regards to the future, the future of crypto. Obviously, we've seen quite a lot of advances this year for the likes of obviously AI and machine learning. Where do you think crypto is going over the next couple of years? Because it's up and crashes up and down quite a lot over the last couple of years. Where is it going?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And, I have to say I'm going to steal some things I've heard from other people, because I think there's been a lot of discussion on this question lately, which is great. So you look at what crypto is and how it's gone over the last sort of 10 years, and it's still so new, right? But right now, the only really active and used use case for crypto right now is trading. We've had all these ideas on using crypto for assets, using cryptos for NFTs, but nothing's sort of really stuck as much as crypto trading. Mm. So I kind of feel like that use case is going to continue to soldier on, and maybe at some point we start rivaling the FX market, or maybe even take over or become one with the FX market. And, I think that's only going to move forward. But however, I think people quite often tie the success to crypto to the price of Bitcoin. And it's not the case. Like, if you look how many projects are being done and how much work is being done on the industry, right now it's more than ever. And granted, there are so many projects that are going to fail right now. But you could say the same thing about every industry. How many companies does Shopify sign up, and how many of them actually succeed, right? And I kind of feel like we have to go through that. There's some pain and people are going to lose some money, and that's never good. But I think that's business, and we have to make some successes. We have to make some failures to make some successes. So I think right now, to propel the industry even further forward, it's coming up with better use cases for why crypto should be here, and not just crypto trading. And, there is some argument right now over crypto gaming, which is quite a growth sector, but we don't necessarily need crypto. So, Fortnite is often used as an example of they've had such amazing success without using crypto. Mm-hmm. So, why would Fortnite ever use crypto? But maybe another game would have similar success if it did use crypto. So, gaming is probably a good chance of that happening. So, there we may see some more crypto-centric or crypto integrations into gaming. But I think the next, and payments, of course. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about payments and cross-payment settlement, and it almost seems like every big VC right now is investing in some sort of payment crypto company. But I guess payments is also just an extension of trading, really, isn't it? Or settlement. So coming back to your question, I think I don't know where we see it going. I see trading and that side of finance getting bigger, and I hope that means that DeFi becomes a much more important side of crypto than it is right now, because I think that's kind of the most exciting space in sort of that crypto trading world. But I feel like there's so many use cases for crypto that we haven't figured out or come up with yet. And whether that's voting, I know supply chain's doing quite well at the moment with using crypto, or that's more these blockchain than crypto technology, I suppose. But we need to come up with some better use cases for crypto and not just try to shoehorn everything into crypto.
It's very true. Very true. Paul, another question for you here, because right at the beginning, and the last question which I want to ask you today, I asked you, are you happy with this year's success so far? You said yes. Tell me a little bit about that happiness, the satisfaction of this year, and what have you achieved, which you're happy with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, coming back to, we talk about keeping the team and the headcount, quite static through a bull and bear market, and we decided, very early on in the after the sort of the collapse of Luna, and as the market was going to start tailing off into that next cycle, that we need to pivot, or not pivot, but come up with ways to make more revenue for the company, because we know this is our second time through a bear cycle. We know that retail trading just falls off a cliff, right? But because we have the established retail presence compared to last time, we can just continue that moving. And what can we do in the background? So a lot of the pivot we've moved towards is B2B and B2B2C. So not so much moving towards the institutional side of things, but using the liquidity we have to help other projects.
Uh-huh.
So whether that's neobanks that are offering crypto to their customer, we will be the liquidity provider for that. So you may not know we there and exist, but they're backhauling all their crypto trades to us.
Mm-hmm.
We're also, working with pensions companies in the UK, so people can invest their pension into crypto. Working with big corporates to offload's the wrong word, off-ramp big transactions for them. So we have law firms that they allow their customers to pay in stable coins. Also, we work with them to sort of get those stable coins into the market and OTC them. Their OTC is not a new thing, but it's also giving corporates another opportunity on how they can actually offer crypto to their customers.
Mm-hmm.
So the big successes for us have been this B2B and B2B2C sort of integrations with our new partners as another way to sort of bring in more crypto revenue to the business.
Amazing. And hopefully the rest of this year finishes off exactly the same. Paul, last question for you. And I said this is the last one, but really quickly, I hear a slight accent in your accent. Where is that from?
From Australia.
Okay. So how long have you lived in the UK? Because it sounds very British, and then it's got these slight tones of Australian.
Yeah, that's it. I moved here in 2010, and very quickly I realized that no one could understand me. So, because I used to talk at like twice the speed I did, and like most typical Australians, I don't finish my words. So I had to sort of slow down and finish my words and finish my sentences, and now I sound like a Brit.
I did think I was guessing Australian, but I wasn't sure, and I just had this slight twang. But I've got quite a lot of Australian friends, and it is very much that we speak the same language, but very much not the same language for sure. Paul, thank you very much for coming on today. It's been amazing to pick your brain and see everything that you're doing at Coinpass, and I wish you the success continuing for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, Matt. Thanks for the time.